Kingston Seed. What will be done about creating more jobs in places like Norbiton and Grove, where there are the highest number of JSA claimants in Kingston?
Well, the Conservative-led coalition government, in its long-term economic plan, has created 1.85 million jobs across the country and a huge number of apprenticeships. And it's clear to me that the way we will fully recover the economy and get to long-term prosperity and stability is to create more jobs. And that's a massive priority for the government, and it's a big priority locally for me, both creating new jobs by partnering with local businesses, with national employers, and also creating new apprenticeships. And I'm lucky to be able to go around the constituency seeing employers who are offering apprenticeships, so they're giving people a start in life they wouldn't otherwise get. But I think it's important that we try and keep people who are brought up here, people who go to school and university here in Kingston, so it's a destination for work rather than people going off to London to work. And I know, for instance, at the university, a number of people study some high-tech subjects, and I'd like Kingston to become a hub for high-tech employment to ensure that there is employment for people here in the borough.
Yeah, I think we've accepted a culture over the last 30 years that high unemployment levels are a price worth paying for low inflation. I've never believed that to be true, and I don't think high inflation is a problem at the moment. I think we should be aiming for full employment. That gives people more security in their jobs, it gives people better pay, and it makes a greater apprenticeship. So, but Labour's plan to create more jobs over the next Parliament will be introducing more apprenticeships, but proper apprenticeships. So I think currently now the Tories will use apprenticeships to underpay people on perhaps just a very short term for 2 months, something like that, and it's just they call it apprenticeships, but what it really is just paying people for temporary contracts on very little money. So we will implement proper apprenticeships for a minimum of 2 years, and they'll be decently paid and they'll be properly taught a skill. Any government contracts that are awarded will make sure that they also come with apprenticeships, and if any company employs anyone from outside the UK, they must also offer apprenticeships for young people. We're also implementing a jobs guarantee fund, so if any young person is out of work for over a year, they will be guaranteed a job, and a proper job as well, well paid, not like the Tory scheme where they'll be forced to do community services if they've committed a crime. We'll be giving people proper paid jobs with proper companies. And as part of our green agenda, we're also going to be creating 1 million green jobs by 2025. So there are plans in place to create jobs there for young people and for all people over the next Parliament.
Well, first and foremost, we don't think people should be paid JSA because we think everyone should have a basic income, certainly in the longer term anyway. Yeah. So people wouldn't kind of be dependent on this kind of meagre allowance every week and having to go to the job centre. But in terms of actually creating jobs, the ways we want to do that is through green energy kind of schemes, insulating homes, building homes, and we think there's a whole way we can create, up to 1 million green jobs through those sorts of programmes. And then once people are in work, we also need to look at what they're getting paid as well. So this is why we say the minimum wage should be a living wage, £10 an hour by 2020 nationally. That's probably going to be more about £12 in London as well. But when people have that basic income, going back to that as well, that does give them kind of greater flexibility in work, and they don't need to work as long, which we'd all like to work a bit less, I'm sure. Yeah, so those are our kind of policy areas there.
So I think, we support full employment, and we think that it is certainly possible, and has been possible in the past, to have full employment. So we, Tusk really rejects the fiction that there has to be some unemployed proportion of the population. So we absolutely support the creation of jobs. I think what we have to be careful about when we're talking about job creation is, well, look at what David Cameron and the Conservatives and the Lib Dems are saying now. They're saying that unemployment is decreasing and that more jobs are being created. What we need to look at is, well, the jobs that were lost during the recession were stable jobs, they were well-paid jobs, and the jobs that are being created now are by and large unstable jobs with very low wages. So we would support the creation of more jobs, but we need to be careful that they're not on 0-hour contracts. We need to be careful that they're well paid, they're not on poverty wages. We need to make sure that the jobs are well paid, so we support a £10 an hour minimum wage, an increase to £10 an hour now, and we maintain that that should increase with the cost of living. and with inflation as we move forward. I think that you know, there are a couple of other issues that would help with employment policy, and I think one of them is looking at the trade union, the anti-trade union laws that have been brought into effect really over the last decades. I think that we need to make sure that once people are in employment, they're in a position to legally protect themselves against poor working conditions, against poor pay, by you know, legally withdrawing their labour in protest through strike action, or by reopening. So there are employment tribunals that employees had access to, and the current government have made it considerably more difficult for them to access those. So also I think we would need to make sure that they have access to that.
For me, you have to look at job creation and where that essentially comes from. I think we need to champion small to medium businesses. I think that one way that we can encourage small to medium businesses is through our, you know, UKIP's ultimate aim of withdrawal from the European Union. I think regulation within the EU puts a pressure on small to medium businesses, which means they can never really get off the ground, or it's economically unviable to go into business. We as you know, as a town, and as indeed as a university, have a real entrepreneurial spirit to harness at what is a, you know, a science and engineering and many other fantastic courses, but essentially you know, a course which will bring many entrepreneurs to our town. If we can come up with a way of you know, encouraging local businesses to start up and indeed flourish, that will you know, increase jobs within the area. So if you look at those areas of Norbiton and Grove as wards, then we need to understand, you know, what about those specific demographics? What sort of local businesses do they need? You know, can we, you know, draw and encourage people to set up local businesses in those areas and increase jobs indeed. And yes, I think that actually that ultimately withdrawal from the EU will release some of the overburdensome regulation and red tape that discourages people from essentially taking that, you know, bold move and using their entrepreneurial spirit to go and set up businesses and create jobs.